Good morning. So, as a part of our Wednesday evening Bible studies, we're reading through the whole Bible this year and sort of looking at the major themes and the major stories that we find there. But with that meeting only once a week, we can't possibly cover all of the material, especially the material that is in the Old Testament. So we're going to cover some of that material here in these Wednesday morning devotions, the stuff that we can sort of pull out that can be separated a little bit from the overall narrative of Scripture, and really dig into that and focus on that. And the section that we're going to be looking into is a section called Wisdom Literature. The Old Testament books are divided up into different groupings, and one of those groupings is wisdom literature. This includes books like Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon. We're going to spend most of our time looking at the wisdom that is found in the books specifically of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. These are books full of practical wisdom, not really hard and fast laws like you would find in Leviticus, like if you don't live this certain way, it's sinful, but a good way to base our lives. They're wise sayings, wise thoughts, wise ideas that we can live our lives around based on the experiences of the wisest man who's ever lived, and that's the author of these books, Solomon. We are going to work through these books and really try to come to understand the wisdom of Solomon and how some of that wisdom can apply to our own lives. We're going to start with Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 through 7. I got to say, this is probably one of the best introductions to a book of the Bible that there is. It explains the whole purpose of the book. The whole reason Solomon writes this whole book is summed up in the first 7 verses. Those that follow this book of wisdom will grow in their wisdom, will grow in their knowledge, and I will believe that if we follow the wisdom found in this book, we will grow in our faith. So let's read Proverbs 1, 1 through 7. Proverbs 1, the Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, for gaining wisdom and instruction, for understanding words of insight, for receiving instruction in prudent behavior, doing what is right and just and fair, for giving prudence to those who are simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. Let the wise listen and add to their learning. Let the discerning get guidance, for understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So we see this book is written by Solomon, who's the son of King David. Now, a little backstory on Solomon. He was not the oldest of David's children, but he was David's favorite and probably the best suited of David's children for the role of king. If you, as we study in our Wednesday night studies, if you want to join us, if you don't already attend those, we're going to see that David's kids were some pretty terrible people. And Solomon is the second child that was born to David and Bathsheba. The story of David and Bathsheba is that David saw Bathsheba bathing one night and fell in love with her, or fell in lust with her, slept with her, then realized that she was pregnant, and so called her husband, who is one of David's best friends, back from a war that he was fighting on David's behalf in order to kind of cover up his sins and make Uriah, who was Bathsheba's wife, think that the child was his. When Uriah never went and slept with his wife, David did the next best thing he'd think of and had Uriah killed, married Bathsheba to cover this sin. Well, that child ended up dying, and their second child was Solomon. And Solomon took over after David passed away as king. And he had this encounter with God where he asked God for the wisdom to rule his kingdom. And so God said, I'm going to make you the wisest person ever. And a lot of that wisdom of Solomon is written in this book. And so Solomon, the son of David, proceeds to tell us why we should study this book. This book is useful for gaining wisdom It's instruction on how to be prudent, what prudent behavior is, what doing what is right, just, and fair is. That in this book, both the simple, the young, the old, the wise, and the discerning, all of them can grow in their understanding of how to live and how to gain wisdom. So why do we study this book, though? Because it's written a long time ago. Surely there are better books on wisdom, better books on how to live our lives out there. I mean, you go into any Barnes and Noble, and a large chunk of their nonfiction stuff is self-help books. Why is Proverbs still so important? Well, this verse really tells us, that last verse, it explains to us why we should study Proverbs. This is because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That's the perspective that Solomon is writing Proverbs from. That if we are going to be wise, if we're going to consider ourselves wise, the very first thing that we need to do is fear God. And this isn't fear like being scared. This is fear as in an awe, a sense of awe, and understanding that this person that we call God, the creator of everything, has all the power in the world, and we have absolutely zero power compared to him. He is the creator of everything. Everything was created through him. And that idea of who God is, being the ultimate creator of life and everything else, should fill us with a sense of awe. And as soon as we understand that, we begin to start being wise. That idea is where we start, where wisdom starts. And every other way we can be wise and how wisdom grows is built on that foundation of awe, that foundation of fear in who God is as our powerful creator. And then he sort of ends this section by saying, fools despise wisdom and instruction. He tells us that it's foolish for us, not only as Christians and believers in God, but as people in general. It is foolish to stop learning, to stop growing, to stop gaining instruction. Part of what makes us who we are as people, part of what being a person is a drive to gain more knowledge, to understand not only the world we live in, but the God we serve more and more. As we move through Proverbs, our goal will be to not only increase our understanding of who God is as our creator, but to increase our wisdom, so that we might live better how God has designed for us to live. I can't wait to go on this journey with you through wisdom literature. I hope and I pray that this will be a growing experience for all of us. Have a great rest of the week.